Newsflash, newsflash. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I got your attention, didn't I? The purpose of this video is to kind of expand on a video I made a week or two ago where I talked about tariffs, guitars, and you. And in that video, I had mentioned that the current administration was enacting tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada. But then as I was releasing that video, the plan for tariffs on Canada and Mexico were rescinded. Now the tariffs for China were still in place, and that's a 10% tariff, which when you think about it really isn't all that big of a deal because, you know, if a 10% increase in the price of parts, tools, and materials isn't going to be that significant. But there is another aspect to this whole story that I didn't mention that I think bears some discussion. And that is what is known as the de minimis rule. The de minimis rule, it's been around for decades. I think they put it into force back in the 1930s. And basically what the de minimis rule means is anything that's priced under a certain amount isn't going to be subject to import duties or taxes or fees or anything like that. And this is products that are imported into the United States. Now, this doesn't affect other countries, obviously. And in fact, many other countries don't have a de minimis rule and they have to pay these duties and taxes and stuff like that. So they're already used to doing it. But in the United States, we always had this rule. And for years and years and years, decades, in fact, the rule was $200. That was the line. Anything over $200, you had to pay the import taxes. Anything below $200, you didn't have to. So it's been that way for many, like I said, many decades. But then in 2015, they raised the limit to $800. So anything under $800 doesn't have to have an import tax applied to it. And that allowed businesses like AliExpress, Temu, Banggood, TomTom, even eBay and Amazon thrived as a result of this change in the rule by increasing that amount. And shortly after Trump took office, he signed an executive order which was going to do away with the de minimis rule entirely, which would mean everything that is imported into the United States would require payment of a import tax or duty or fees. So obviously everything would get significantly more expensive. How expensive? It's hard to say. But suffice to say, if you're paying $30 for a set of nut files or $30 for a import humbucker pickup, that price is going to jump significantly. And the whole idea behind that is it would encourage American buyers, consumers, to purchase products that are made here in the United States, because then all of a sudden those products become more competitive if the competition is suddenly more expensive. Well, that didn't sit well, I think, with a lot of people. And there was also some concerns about how they were going to implement it and enforce it. So Trump decided to walk back that executive order, and it has been paused. Notice I said paused. It wasn't done away with. He didn't get rid of it. It's just been paused. It could be put back into force at any time. And I have a feeling what they're going to try to do is structure the implementation and the enforcement of the rules so that they can reinstitute it and be able to actually carry it out and enforce it. So at some point that could happen again. And another side to this that you probably haven't heard about is that if you're buying, you know, a tool or a part or materials from a seller in a foreign country, and you're buying from that seller and they're sending it to you, you will have to pay that tax. But to do so, as it stands right now, and this could change, but as it stands right now, you would have to supply your Social Security number and or your tax identification number, because you would essentially be an importer. The only way around that is if other companies come to exist in the United States that would purchase all this stuff in bulk and bring it over here. And they would take care of the import duties and taxes and fees and all that stuff. And then they would just sell it to you, and you wouldn't have to input that information about your social security number or your tax ID. You would just be making a purchase like you normally would. However, I think that's the part of it they're trying to figure out and trying to work on. Regardless, though, the bottom line is everything that we buy is going to get more expensive because almost everything we buy is imported. And I'm not sure if this means everything that's imported from any country or if it's just certain countries. That I don't know. And I've tried to do some research on this, and the information it's just not out there, and it's vague. But I'm providing you with this information as a way to help you plan your business or your hobby going forward. So if you've got major purchases that you need to make, you might want to consider doing that now before this de minimis rule is struck down and these taxes and import duties and all that stuff are applied to the purchase. And, talk to anybody who lives pretty much anywhere in Europe, and they'll tell you it's a pain. And this is what could be our future here in the United States. It's hard to say. So we'll just have to wait and see what ends up coming about. But I just want you to be prepared for that in eventuality. It's not just the tariffs that you have to be concerned about. It's the elimination of the de minimis rule and the fact that you would have to input your personal data just to make a simple purchase, unless there are significant changes in how these products are imported and sold to American consumers. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, this isn't going to affect me because all of the tools and parts and materials that I buy, I purchase from US manufacturers. Well, it is going to affect you because those manufacturers oftentimes rely on components that are purchased and imported from foreign countries. So if they have to pay the taxes and duties and fees and all that on those bits and pieces and parts before they bring them in and assemble them into the finished product, they're going to pass that on to you. So don't be fooled into thinking that just because it says made in the USA on it, doesn't mean that it was all the parts and components and materials that went into it were actually made here. They were likely imported from elsewhere. So that's why it's important to be aware that prices for everything will go up if the de minimis rule is done away with. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't do away with the de minimis rule. What I'm saying is it needs to be implemented in such a way as not to become a total shock to everybody who's trying to operate a business or at the very least pursue a hobby. And that was the risk that we were about to endure when they first decided to do away with the rule. But now that they've paused it, my hope is that they're going to think it through a little bit more carefully so that this doesn't disrupt the businesses that other folks here in the United States are trying to be successful at. At any rate, I hope you've enjoyed this video or at least got something out of it. If so, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, visit eguitarplans.com, my Highland Guitars merch store, click the thanks button, click join, become a member. Anything that you do will help support this channel so that I can keep making these videos, sharing my knowledge, experience, and the news with you. So as always, take care, stay safe, and I hope you'll be back for more guitar building videos.